Welcome to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. This show will take you from confusion to clarity, confidence and emotional healing to a joyful pregnancy. This is the place where we uncover the real truth about fertility and why preparing for conception, mind, body and soul, is more important than ever. With honest, empowering conversations, we'll explore the hidden factors impacting fertility and how a holistic approach can help you take back control of your journey. Whether you're trying naturally, navigating IVF, or just starting out, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're already on your way. So let's walk this path together. Hi, and welcome to the Conscious Conception Show. I'm Sue Ritchie, holistic health and fertility specialist. And I'm so delighted that you're going to be joining me today because I'm going to be sharing with you just how important it is to take the time to prepare for conception. And it really doesn't matter whether you're going for IVF treatment or whether you're looking to conceive naturally. It really, whether you're looking to conceive naturally or going for IVF, there's a common factor for both these things. You need to have healthy eggs and healthy sperm. And you need to have healthy eggs and healthy sperm for conception to happen, and more importantly, to help ensure that you have a healthy baby. And, unfortunately, that's not always a given, even if we'd like to think it is. So preparing for conception isn't just for women. Sorry guys, but it's really important today that men also prepare for conception, because in cases where couples are struggling, in about 50% of the cases there are male fertility issues that are in there, if you like. And it's a great way, I think, when you both sit down and prepare together for conception. It's a way of becoming closer as a couple, but also, when you're looking to create a baby, it is a joint commitment. It is a joint thing. And yeah, as they say, it really takes two to tango. But unfortunately, the reality in today's world is that there are a number of things that are really not helpful and are getting in the way of our fertility. But the good news is that there are a lot of things that you can do to really, mitigate and, help to, overcome some of those things that might be getting in the way. And I know the thought of taking time, oh my God, I haven't got time, I'm desperate to conceive. And, you're feeling that time is running out and, taking the time to prepare for conception. Wow, I'm sure you're feeling that's probably a waste of precious time. And, I get that totally. But here's why it really will be time well spent. Firstly, the cycle for, eggs to be ready for conception is 3 months, and similarly, it's the case for sperm. So you really have a window of 3 months of really getting things in a good place so that you have healthy eggs, and for the guys as well, you have healthy sperm. So for me, allowing a minimum of 3 months to really help create the best environment for conception to happen is time very well spent. And ideally, I'd recommend taking 6 months if that's at all possible. Because, our bodies don't change overnight. It takes several weeks for things, when you start making changes, for those things to start to have an effect and have an impact and make things happen. And, when you take the time to prepare and you start focusing on yourself and focusing on getting yourself in a really good place, it really helps to, let go of some of that obsessing around, trying to conceive, if you like, because you're focusing then on really prioritizing your health and your well-being, and you can let go of some of the other stuff, and that's going to be beneficial as well, because it's going to be, you're going to be a less stressful state. which is also going to help when it comes to conceiving. And the other benefit is, when you take the time to prepare, you're going to be more likely to conceive in a shorter space of time. That's going to reduce stress and some of the, obsession time and ups and downs, if you like, bit of an emotional roller coaster when you're, every month you're, oh God, I haven't conceived now. And, and it's also, if you're going for IVF treatment, it's going to help you to reduce the number of rounds you might have to undergo, if you like. And of course, so often there's a financial implication in that too, which means that, there'll be some less stress around the whole finances area too. But the key factor is that, you're more likely to have a healthy pregnancy and give birth to a healthy baby. And, to me, that is incredibly important. And I really hope that you agree too. But even more than that, you and your partner will be getting yourselves into a really good place so that you're both healthy, you're in a calmer place, you're feeling more positive about life. And with that, you're going to be able to support your child, your future child, to really thrive and grow into adulthood. So it's a big benefit for everyone. Now, I personally believe very much in, taking an holistic approach. You see, as human beings, we're quite complex. We're not just a physical body. We're mind, body, and spirit. And, each of these things, are connected to each other, but they also have an impact on each other. They don't sit alone. And the reality is fertility is not just a physical thing. Oh, I know. I know that, probably most doctors that you're seeing or most consultants that you're seeing are really just focusing on the physical reproductive bits. And, the reason for that is, that's their expertise. They don't often have expertise in other areas like nutrition and providing emotional support and all of those sorts of things and helping you to manage your mindset. That's not where their expertise lies. And the other factor is, our bodies are incredibly clever and, they won't conceive if they don't feel that they can support a healthy pregnancy. And, that's a good thing. They also listen to our thoughts and the self-talk that we give to ourselves. And they really need to feel, that they're in a safe place so that they can create the environment for conception to happen. So to me, one of the most important areas that we need to look at when we're looking to conceive is really around our health and nutrition. It's absolutely vital. And, to me, it's one of the most important areas. But sadly, the truth is today, unfortunately, that, many of us are just not as healthy as we think we are. And, the reason for that quite often is that, when things are starting to go wrong inside the body, we can't see inside our bodies. We don't know what's going on. And it can take up to sort of 10 years in many cases for, any sort of major physical signs that things aren't right to really sort of, pop their head up and let you know that, that something's wrong, that you actually notice. And diets have just changed hugely in the last 40 years. We've moved away, haven't we, from, a diet where we're particularly, focused on, home cooked, natural foods with plenty of veg, plenty of fiber, plenty of fruit, to, one where we're mostly eating, and so for many people, mostly eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of focus on sort of getting ready meals and even, having takeaways. But unfortunately, the science is showing very clearly that those sorts of diets are really having a big effect and not a good effect, negative effect on our health today. And I know personally from, what the clients that I've been working with who are struggling to conceive that, health and their gut health and their diet and the nutrition have been key factors that have been getting in the way. And, eating a healthy diet, which is really full of the right nutrition for fertility, actually improves egg and sperm quality. And that's the case even if you've been told that your AMHA levels are not great. There's still room for things to be improved by eating a good, healthy, fertility supportive diet. Now, whilst getting your health into a good place so that you increase your chances of conceiving and having a healthy baby is very important, you also really want to make sure that you continue that whole process of eating the right foods all the way through your pregnancy and onwards. um, by actually embedding that whole thing of actually eating a really healthy diet is really going to support you through, so that you enjoy your pregnancy and you enjoy the whole experience of that. But it's also going to help you to protect your baby from, you not having any illnesses or anything like that during that period of time. And there's another important reason for, being able to start really embedding, a healthy eating habit in your life. And, also focusing on making your well-being and, your health and your well-being a priority in your life. Because when you bring a child into this world, I'm sure you agree, you want to make sure that you remain strong and healthy so that you can be there to fully support them as they grow up. And, sadly, I see, too many cases where, children are becoming, a carer to one of their parents at quite a young age. And I'm sure you agree that's something that, we shouldn't really, children shouldn't have to be doing that sort of thing. They should be enjoying their childhood. But there's also an added benefit for your child as well, because when you've got that great awareness around health being a priority, and you've actually sort of got into the habit of really eating a healthy diet on an everyday basis, then, your child is going to benefit from that too, because, you're going to be introducing them and making sure that they get a healthy diet and all the nutrition they need to grow strong and healthy. And sadly, I saw recently a program that was really looking at sort of eating habits of children. Now, this is in the UK, you may be in a different country. And, it sadly showed that there were children as young as a year old who were, their main diet was joining their parents in eating, takeaway meals. And, I'm sure you're aware that, whilst having the odd takeaway is not bad as a daily basis, even for adults, it just doesn't have, the full nutritional value that we need to remain healthy. And of course, when it comes to a child, it's even more important that they get all the nutrition that they need to be able to grow strong and healthy. I know that's a very extreme example, but I hope you can see, where I'm coming from, on this in making that point. So the other area that we need to focus on, when we're talking about preparing for conception is all about gut health. And I'm sure, you've read things, articles, and seeing lots of things talking about gut health and how important it is. And it's absolutely fundamental to not only our physical health, but also to our mental health as well. And, it's really important because the brain and the gut are connected, they communicate constantly with each other. But one of the things about gut health, apart from the part thing actually keeping us healthy, is that many of the key hormones that run the systems in our body are managed and balanced in the gut. And one of those hormones is estrogen. Well, of course, you as well as I know, estrogen is a very important hormone when it comes to fertility. And the other factor to consider about why getting your gut health into a really good place, apart from helping you to, conceive more easily, but also to be healthy, is that, you might not know this, but as your baby passes through the vaginal birth canal when they're, coming into this world, they actually pick up your gut microbiome. So, you can see that if your gut microbiome is in a really good place, it's healthy, then you're actually going to pass that on to your baby, and they're going to have a really good start in life by inheriting a healthy gut microbiome. And a child that starts off with healthy obviously has a better chance of staying healthy through their adult life as well. And, gut health is not only important for women. I've talked about estrogen, but a lot of recent research has been showing how the gut microbiome is actually very important for sperm quality and sperm health too. So yes, guys, I'm afraid that, these things and preparing for conception is just as important for you too. There's lots of factors that, have a negative impact on our gut health. And, it's not only just diet, and particularly if you've got a diet made up of a lot of processed foods, not really eating a lot of fruit or vegetables or fiber, then, that can help to really sort of disrupt the gut microbiome and turn it unhealthy. But also other things like stress, that's a big factor, alcohol, sugar, medications, antibiotics, and, recreational drugs as well. And so, getting your gut health into a really good place is another key thing that really is fundamental, a part of the preparation for, conception and, trying to increase your chances of conceiving. Now, we sort of talked about sort of drugs and things in terms of, your gut health, but the other thing we need to talk about is toxins. And toxins are something that, probably you may not have sort of seen or talked about in terms of fertility, but unfortunately, they are increasingly having a big impact on our fertility and generally on our health as well, which is a big concern. And, they're all around us, unfortunately, in the environment, in our food, um, in, products that we sort of put on our bodies on a daily basis, the cleaning products in our home, plastics, PFAs that are in Teflon non-stick saucepans. And, whilst we can't avoid all of them, the good news is that we can really, in this sort of preparation stage, actually start to make some changes and swaps with products and things like that to really reduce exposure to them. And, reducing exposure to toxins not only helps you to increase the chances of conceiving, but also is going to be very important in, having a healthy baby. And, by starting now, to make those changes, you're going to be creating a healthier and safer environment for, not only you and your partner now, but also for your future child as well. You see, many of the toxins basically are endocrine disruptors. And what that means is they have a negative impact on the functioning of your hormones. So, I mentioned BPAs in plastics and PFAs in Teflon non-stick saucepans. They have a detrimental impact on fertility, particularly on male fertility, as research is showing. And, moving away from storing your food or even preparing food if you're, in plastic, particularly if you're using a microwave. Switching over to using glass is a good way to start, perhaps choosing more organic foods where possible. I know that, budgets and finances come into that because they tend to be more expensive, but, just look to, choose as many as you possibly can. And then, with body products, my recommendation there is to start looking at the ones that you use on your body most. So things that you might use on a daily basis, start swapping to more natural and organic body products as well, because, the skin is the biggest and the quickest way to absorb anything into the body. So it is really important. And if you're interested in actually finding out more about all of that, then I do actually have, you can get access to a free book all about toxins and how you can manage them and reduce your exposure on my website. So if you want to get that, please go ahead and do that. Now, one of the things that tends to get in the way of conceiving today is, for many people, and I've been there and worn the t-shirt too, is this constant busyness or addiction to constant busyness, because it creates stress and, that affects our hormones, our nervous system, and ultimately has an impact on fertility. But, unfortunately, many of us are really caught up in being, in this state of constant busyness. And sorry, constant busyness where, we're ruled by, I've got to do this, I must do this, I need to do this. But, being constantly busy, which I realized, I had a health wake-up call about 14 years ago, and that made me stop, which was a good thing actually, because it made me stop and reflect and look back on my life and where I was. And in doing that, I actually realized that my sort of addiction to constant busyness was really actually me trying to prove my self-worth and my self-value. And, in the reality, we don't need to do that. So, that is something you might want to sort of think about and consider whether that's something that is sort of a factor in your addiction to busyness. But the problem is that, when we never give ourselves quiet time to stop, reflect, and listen, our bodies have a lot of wisdom that they're trying to communicate with us. But unless we get quiet, we can't listen, we can't hear. And, and our intuition as well has some huge wisdom for us too. And being constantly busy, we're in a state of stress all of the time. We're feeling, constantly switched on. And, stress is a big factor that gets in the way of fertility. Our fight and flight system, it's a really ancient system going back to sort of prehistoric caveman times. And, it's there to protect us, but really to protect us from, big dangers where, our life is being threatened. But, for so many of us today, we're in that state of being constantly stressed. And that means that our fight and flight system is constantly on. And the reason why it impacts our fertility is that when that fight and flight system is switched on, it basically diverts all the resources of the body from any systems, if you like, that aren't needed to provide the energy for you to just run like hell to get away from that danger. And one of the things that gets shut down is our reproductive system, because if you imagine you're a caveman, or what, a cave woman running away from a saber-toothed tiger because you might end up as its dinner, your body at that time isn't going to say, this is a great time to conceive. I'm sure you appreciate that. So really learning how to manage our stress levels is really key when it comes to preparing for conception. It's not going to help your baby either if you're in a constant state of stress, while you're pregnant as well, because those stress hormones will be having an impact on your baby and causing anxiety. So what can you do? Well, lots of things really, but switch off from tech, social media a couple of hours before bed, just to allow your body to mind to calm down, relax, and ditch the ditching the binge watching of television programs, avoiding watching scary programs before bed will really help to reduce the stress levels. But it'll also create, a more calm environment for you to get a good night's sleep. And getting a good night's sleep is also really important when it comes to fertility. You could try meditating in the morning. Meditation is really good. Do it in the morning, do it in the evening. Listen to calm, soothing music. Get out and have regular exercise, particularly out in nature. Those are all things that you can do to help reduce stress. So you've got your mindset, and there's negative talk. And I'm sure you realize that that can actually take a lot of time and effort, and it's not good for your body to be, having those negative thoughts, because your body, as I mentioned earlier, is listening. So, you want to ditch any of those and turn them into positives. And you want to nurture yourself. You want to have self-love. It's so important to love yourself, because it really creates a great energy in your body to help everything work well. And when you love yourself, take care of yourself, you're going to making the right priorities. So, I've covered an awful lot today, and to be honest, there's probably a lot more I could cover. And, I hope you found it useful, and I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed. If you are feeling overwhelmed, I just want you to know that you just need to focus on, one thing, make changes in that one thing, and it's taking that first step that really makes the big difference. And if you feel that, you'd like any support, I'm here. All you have to do is just reach out. So, thank you so much for joining me. And, if this episode resonated with you at all, or you know of anybody else who might find it useful, please do share it with them. And if you're ready to take a more conscious, holistic approach to your fertility journey, I'd love to walk that path with you. You see, we're not just talking about conception, we're talking about creating healthy, happy couples that create healthy, happy babies. To me, that's the heart of it all. So until next time, please stay curious, stay hopeful, and please, please, please do take ever such good care of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. To stay informed and inspired, be sure to tune in every third Tuesday of the month at 7:30 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and sign up for my newsletter for helpful tips on boosting fertility and preparing for positive, empowered parenthood. If you're ready for more support, connect with me on social media on Instagram and LinkedIn and at Optimum Fertility, or visit my website at sue-ritchie.com.